I was working the front desk at a hotel in Amsterdam when an American guest walked up with his phone in one hand and a paper map in the other. He looked frustrated. He asked me why the map was wrong. I asked what he meant. He pointed at the map and said, Europe looked way bigger than it should be. He pulled up a world map on his phone and showed me. On his phone, Greenland looked massive and Europe looked tiny. He wanted to know why our tourist maps were lying to people. I tried to explain map projections, how different maps show size differently. He wasn't having it. He said maps should show real size. I agreed, but told him that's not how flat maps work. He stared at me like I was the confused one. Then he asked if we had any American-style maps. I didn't know what to say to that. Another guest from Texas once asked me why Amsterdam was so close to Paris on the map. She thought it would take 6 or 7 hours to drive there. I told her it's about 5 hours. She seemed shocked. She said, "That's the same time it takes her to drive across Texas." I nodded. She looked at the map again and said, "Europe must be really small then." I told her Texas is just really big. She laughed, but I don't think she believed me. My friend worked at a train station in Belgium. An American tourist asked him which train goes to Europe. My friend said we're already in Europe. The tourist said no, he wanted to go to the main part. My friend asked what he meant. The tourist said the big Europe, the part with the Eiffel Tower and stuff. My friend realized he meant Paris. He sold him a ticket to Paris. The tourist thanked him for finally understanding. I've heard so many stories like this. Americans abroad getting confused by distances, sizes, and locations. It's not because they're careless. It's because the way we teach geography is so different across countries. American maps put America in the center. European maps put Europe in the center. Asian maps put Asia in the center. Everyone thinks their home is the middle of the world. But when you travel, you realize the world doesn't actually have a middle. And that's when things get interesting. Let me tell you about some of the funniest moments I've seen when Americans try to navigate the rest of the world. I worked at a car rental place in Dublin. An American couple came in to rent a car for their Ireland trip. They had printed out directions from Google Maps. The husband asked me how long it would take to drive to Scotland. I told him, "You can't drive to Scotland from Ireland. There's water in between." He looked at his wife. She looked at the map. They both looked confused. He asked about the bridge. I said there's no bridge. He said Google showed a route. I looked at his phone. Google was showing a route that included a ferry. He hadn't noticed the little boat icon. He thought it was just a regular road. They ended up canceling their Scotland plans. A woman from California asked me why Ireland used kilometers instead of miles. I said most of the world uses kilometers. She said that seemed inefficient. I asked why. She said because miles are easier. I asked easier than what? She said easier than kilometers. I didn't know how to respond to that. She then asked if I could convert all the road signs to miles for her. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. I gave her a conversion chart instead. My cousin works at a tourism office in Prague. An American visitor asked her where the Berlin Wall was. She said it's in Berlin. He said he thought it was in Prague. She asked why he thought that. He said because Prague is in Eastern Europe and the wall separated Eastern Europe. She tried to explain that the wall was specifically in Berlin, separating East and West Berlin. He asked if he could see it from Prague then. She said no, Berlin is hours away. He seemed disappointed. He asked if there were any other famous walls nearby. She suggested he visit the old city walls in Prague instead. He asked if those walls separated communism too. She gave up and just handed him a brochure. I met someone who worked at a museum in Vienna. She told me about an American tourist who asked why Austria and Australia had such similar names. She explained they're completely different places with different origins. He said it was still confusing. She agreed. He asked if people mixed them up a lot. She said yes, all the time. He said they should change one of the names. She asked which one. He said probably Austria, since Australia was bigger. She told him Austria existed first. He didn't believe her. She showed him historical documents. He said the documents could be wrong. She gave up. Another story from my friend in Copenhagen. An American asked him how to get to Switzerland for lunch. He said Switzerland is not close enough for lunch. The tourist said it looked close on his phone. My friend asked to see. The tourist had zoomed out so far that all of Europe fit on his screen. Everything looked close. My friend zoomed in to show real distances. The tourist said that was false advertising. My friend asked what was false advertising. The tourist said making countries look closer than they are. My friend tried to explain zoom functions. The tourist walked away muttering about deceptive maps. I once helped an American woman at the train station in Brussels. She wanted a train to London. I told her she needed the Eurostar. She asked what that was. I explained it's the train that goes under the English Channel. She asked what the English Channel was. I said the water between England and mainland Europe. She looked nervous. She asked if the train goes underwater. I said yes, through a tunnel. She said she didn't know that was possible. I assured her it was safe. She asked if fish could see them. I said no, they're too deep and inside a tunnel. She decided to fly instead. My manager told me about an American who rented a car in Portugal. He returned it 3 days early. My manager asked if everything was okay. He said the car was fine, but he finished Portugal. My manager asked what he meant. He said he drove around the whole country and saw everything. My manager asked where he went. He listed 3 cities. My manager showed him a map of Portugal with hundreds of other towns and cities. The man seemed shocked. He said Portugal looked smaller on his map at home. He asked for his money back to rent the car longer. My manager said no refunds. The man left disappointed. I worked at a grocery store in Germany. An American asked me where the milk was. I showed him. He picked up a carton and asked why it said 1 liter. I said, because that's the volume. He asked what that was in real measurements. I said liters are real measurements. He said he meant in gallons. I told him 1 liter is about a quarter gallon. He put the carton back and said that wasn't enough milk. I showed him bigger bottles. He asked why everything came in weird sizes. I said they weren't weird, just metric. He bought 3 1-liter cartons and complained the whole time. My sister worked at a doctor's office in London. An American patient came in for a checkup. The nurse asked his weight. He said 190. The nurse wrote down 190 kilograms. He looked enormous on paper. When the doctor saw him, she was confused. He clearly didn't weigh 418 pounds. She asked him again. He said 190. She asked if he meant pounds. He said obviously. She converted it to kilograms. 86 kilograms. He asked why they didn't just use pounds. She said because the UK uses metric for medical measurements. He said that seemed complicated. She said it's actually simpler. He disagreed. A friend told me about working at a weather station in Norway. An American tourist called and asked why the forecast was broken. My friend asked what was wrong. The tourist said it showed 30 degrees for tomorrow. My friend said yes, it'll be warm. The tourist said 30 degrees is freezing. My friend realized the issue. She explained Norway uses Celsius. The tourist asked what his temperature was in real degrees. My friend said Fahrenheit isn't more real, just different. The tourist asked what 30 Celsius was in Fahrenheit. My friend said about 86. The tourist said that made way more sense. My friend suggested he learn Celsius while traveling. He said that was too much work. I worked at a hardware store in France. An American came in looking for a wrench. I asked what size. He said 3/4. I asked 3/4 of what? He looked confused. He said 3/4 inch. I showed him our metric wrenches. He said he needed imperial. I said we only stock metric. He asked how people fix things without imperial tools. I said they use metric tools. He said that seemed backwards. I didn't respond. He bought a set of metric wrenches and left grumbling about conversion charts. My brother worked at a gas station in Italy. An American driver asked why gas was so expensive. My brother looked at the price. He said it's normal for Italy. The American said it was like $7 per gallon. My brother said we sell by the liter, not gallon. The American did math in his head. His face relaxed. He said, oh, so it's cheaper than he thought. My brother said yes. The American then asked why they don't just use gallons. My brother said because Europe uses liters. The American said America should convince everyone to switch to gallons. My brother said that probably won't happen. The American filled up his tank and left. I met someone who worked at a pool in Spain. An American guest complained the pool was too cold. She checked the temperature. 25 degrees Celsius. Perfect temperature, she told the guest. He said 25 degrees is way too cold. She explained it's Celsius, not Fahrenheit. He asked what that was in real temperature. She said 77 Fahrenheit. He touched the water again. He said it felt warmer now. She said the water didn't change. He said knowing the real temperature made it feel different. She walked away confused. My friend worked at a construction site in Sweden. An American contractor visited to consult on a project. He looked at the plans. Everything was in meters and centimeters. He asked if they had plans in feet and inches. My friend said no. The contractor said he couldn't work with metric. My friend offered to help convert. The contractor said it was too confusing. He spent 3 days converting everything himself. At the end, my friend asked if he learned metric. He said no, he just converted everything. My friend asked why not just learn metric. The contractor said he was too old to change. He was 38. I worked at a restaurant in Greece. An American couple finished their meal. They left cash on the table and walked out. I ran after them. I thought they forgot their change. They said, no, that's the tip. I said the tip was already included in their bill. They looked confused. They asked how much they should tip then. I said nothing, it's included. They said that felt wrong. I explained that's how it works in Greece. They insisted on leaving more money. I told them they didn't have to. They left it anyway and said American habits die hard. My friend worked at an apartment building in Germany. An American tenant called her at 11 at night. He was vacuuming. A neighbor had knocked on his door and yelled at him in German. He didn't understand why. My friend asked why he was vacuuming at 11. He said he just got home from work. She explained that's during quiet hours. He asked what quiet hours were. She said times when you can't make noise, usually 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. He said that was oddly specific. She said it's the law. He asked who made that law. She said Germany. He said America would never accept that. She said that's probably true. I worked at a shoe store in Japan. An American customer walked in wearing shoes. Normal for America, not for Japan. I politely asked him to remove his shoes. He asked why. I explained it's custom in Japan. He said he was just looking. I said that's fine, but shoes off, please. He seemed annoyed. He took off his shoes. He looked around in his socks. He asked if he could try on shoes. I said yes, of course. He said then, why did he take off his shoes just to put on shoes? I tried to explain the cultural logic. He didn't get it. He bought nothing and left. My cousin worked at a park in Switzerland. An American tourist was eating lunch on a bench. He finished and threw his trash toward a bin. He missed. The trash landed on the ground. My cousin walked over and asked him to pick it up. He said he tried to make the shot. My cousin said that's not how it works. He needed to put it in the bin properly. The tourist said it was close enough. My cousin said no, Swiss people care about cleanliness. The tourist picked up the trash and properly threw it away. He asked if Switzerland was always this strict. My cousin said yes. That's why it's clean. I met someone who worked at a train in Finland. An American passenger was talking loudly on his phone. Other passengers looked uncomfortable. My coworker asked him to speak quietly. The American said he wasn't being loud. My coworker explained that Finns prefer quiet on public transport. The American said his conversation was important. My coworker said that's fine, but please lower your voice. The American whispered loudly into his phone that Finland had weird rules. Everyone could still hear him. My coworker gave up. A friend worked at a pharmacy in Italy. An American came in asking for medicine. He didn't have a prescription. My friend said he needed one. He said he didn't need prescriptions in America for this medicine. My friend said Italy has different rules. He asked if she could just give it to him anyway. She said no, that's illegal. He said it was just for a headache. She offered over-the-counter alternatives. He said American medicine was better. She said he needed to see a doctor for a prescription. He left frustrated. I worked at a hotel in the Netherlands. An American guest asked for ice. Lots of ice. I brought him a small bucket. He said that wasn't enough. I brought another. He said he needed more. I asked what for. He said for his drinks. I explained Europeans don't typically use much ice. He said that was weird. I said Americans using lots of ice was weird to us. He said ice keeps drinks cold. I said so does refrigeration. He said refrigerated drinks aren't cold enough without ice. I brought him more ice. He filled his entire mini fridge with ice cups. My manager told me about an American staying at our hotel in Portugal. He called the front desk at 7 a.m. He said the construction outside was too loud. My manager explained there was no construction. He said there were people yelling and banging. My manager realized he meant the morning fish market. She explained it's a daily market. He asked when it would end. She said in a few hours. He asked if they could move it. She said it's been there for centuries. He asked if the hotel could soundproof his room. She said no. He checked out early and left a bad review about the historical fish market. I was working at a bookstore in Edinburgh when an American asked me where the English section was. I said we're in Scotland, so most books are in English. He said he meant American English. I asked what the difference was. He said spelling. I showed him books. He opened one and saw color with a U. He said that was spelled wrong. I explained that's how the UK spells it. He said his teachers told him that was incorrect. I said his teachers taught him American spelling. He seemed bothered by this. He asked why the UK didn't fix their spelling. I reminded him that English came from England. He said that didn't matter because more people spoke American English. I suggested he just read the books anyway. He said the wrong spelling would distract him. He bought nothing. My last story is from my friend who worked at an airport in Paris. An American passenger missed his flight. He came to the desk angry. He said the airport signs confused him. My friend asked how. He said the gate numbers weren't in order. My friend looked at the departures board. They were in order. The passenger said they should be organized by country. My friend said they're organized by departure time. The passenger said that made no sense. My friend asked how he wanted them organized. The passenger said American flights first, then everything else. My friend said this was France, not America. The passenger said airports should be universal. My friend booked him on the next flight. These stories never stop coming. Every day, someone somewhere is confused by a different measurement system, a different cultural norm, or a different way of looking at the world. It's not about being careless or wrong. It's about assuming your normal is everyone's normal. Americans think the world should work like America. Europeans think the world should work like Europe. Asians think the world should work like Asia. Everyone's a little bit right and a little bit confused. The funny part isn't the confusion itself. It's how confident we all are that our way makes the most sense. The American who thought Austria should change its name was totally serious. The man who wanted maps to show real size didn't understand why that's impossible. The tourist who wanted a train to go to Europe while standing in Europe had no idea why that was funny. These moments happen because we don't teach people that different isn't wrong. It's just different. And trust me, these stories never stop coming. Every hotel desk, every train station, every restaurant has a new one every week. The world is full of people confidently misunderstanding each other. And honestly, that's what makes